We assume that what we build will last, that our cities, our pollution, our entire civilization will leave a clear mark on the Earth. But this is actually wrong, because scientific studies suggest that if modern civilization disappeared tomorrow, in 100,000 years, almost everything we recognize would be gone. No skyscrapers, no roads, barely a trace we were ever here. And once you understand why, it completely changes how you think about history and just how fragile our civilization really is. Hi guys, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Michael. I have a degree in ancient history, and on this channel, we discuss the unexplainable mysteries of our past. Let's get into it. When we imagine the end of our world, we tend to picture the classic Hollywood ruins, the skeletal remains of the Eiffel Tower, the crumbling pillars of the White House, or Manhattan reclaimed by a lush, green forest. We imagine future archaeologists, perhaps not even human ones, stumbling upon our monuments of glass and steel, hundreds of thousands of years from now, and slowly piecing together the story of who we were. We assume that because we have built so much and so densely, we have left a scar on the planet that time itself cannot heal. But that is a fantasy. It is a comfort we tell ourselves because the alternative is much harder to process. The reality is that on a geological timescale, our civilization won't remain in any way we recognize. Most modern materials do not survive as objects at all. Our cities would not fossilize. They would disintegrate. By the time 100,000 years have passed, a mere heartbeat in the life of our planet, the surface of the Earth will have been scrubbed almost entirely clean of our existence. We are conditioned to believe that history is a permanent record, but when you look at the science, you quickly realize that the past is a master of erasing itself. Think about it like this. Our planet is not a museum. It is a high-speed recycling machine that operates on the relentless laws of thermodynamics and chemistry. To understand how quickly our civilization would disappear, we have to start with the physics of failure. Our world appears solid and static, but to a geochemist, a city is just a temporary concentration of energy and materials that the universe is constantly trying to disperse. The moment we stop maintaining a building, the moment we stop fighting the entropy, it stops being architecture and starts becoming geology. The clock begins the second the power goes out. If you take a standard skyscraper, a titan of steel, concrete, and glass, it begins to fail structurally within decades to centuries. But the real destruction happens at the molecular level, long before the walls actually come down. In coastal regions, where the vast majority of our greatest urban centers sit, the primary assassin is electrochemical corrosion. We use low-carbon steel for almost everything, from the rebar in our foundations to the massive beams in our bridges. But in a high-salinity environment, this metal undergoes a relentless process of structural failure. The salt in the air and the moisture in the ground create an aggressive battery, stripping electrons from the metal. Research on the corrosion of low-carbon steel shows that in marine environments, corrosion rates can reach fractions of a millimeter per year, and in extreme cases approach 1 millimeter annually. On a human scale, that's just a maintenance problem, but on a geological scale of 100,000 years, that is erasure. The steel doesn't just rust, it returns to the Earth as iron oxide, eventually becoming indistinguishable from natural ore. Then we have our so-called immortal materials, the plastics. Polyethylene terephthalate, or PET, is the backbone of our modern consumer world. We're often told it lasts forever, but forever in a human landfill is very different from forever in the wild. When exposed to the elements, PET undergoes a multi-stage process of abiotic chain scission. This isn't biological rot, it's a chemical attack. In arid environments, where the sun is relentless, UV-induced degradation and photooxidation acts like a slow-motion fire. High-energy photons from the sun snap the polymer chains, leading to chemical embrittlement. The plastic doesn't disappear, it shatters. It transitions from a recognizable object, a bottle or a crate, into a cloud of microparticulate pollution. Within just a few centuries, the macrostructure is gone. By the year 100,000, those particles have been ground down by mechanical abrasion into a molecular dust that settles into the sediment layers, completely losing its human form. But even our most durable mineral-based materials aren't safe. Take soda lime glass, the material in our windows and high-rises. While it's incredibly stable, it isn't immune to the Earth. In wet environments, glass undergoes a process of ion exchange, where sodium ions are leached out and replaced by hydrogen. Over centuries, the glass becomes opaque, brittle, and eventually it simply erodes into mineral grains. By the time we reach that 100,000-year mark, the structural form of our civilization, metals, concrete, plastic, is gone. The steel is a layer of rust, the plastic is a billion microscopic fragments, and the glass is just sand. We won't leave behind ruins, we'll leave behind a chemical signature that is being constantly dispersed. But that raises a question. We do find some artifacts from 100,000 plus years ago, so how come they haven't been erased? The answer is simple and deeply misleading. What survives isn't a fair sample of the past. It's the hardest materials, mostly stone. Stone tools don't survive because they were the most important things people made. They survive because stone is brutally resistant to time. So the reason prehistory looks like it does isn't because ancient humans lived in a stone age in the way we imagine. It's because stone is the only thing that time allows us to see. And this is the part that most people never hear. We don't just have biased evidence, we have almost no evidence at all. Once you go back beyond 100,000 years, there are only 9 known accepted Homo sapiens sites. 9, that's it. And those 9 sites are all we have to represent roughly 200,000 years, from the earliest modern human fossils to 100,000 years ago. 9 brief, disconnected glimpses to reconstruct the entire early history of our species. From a statistical point of view, that's not just weak, it's laughable. No statistician on Earth would accept a sample size like that as sufficient to draw confident conclusions about behavior, intelligence, culture, or technological limits. But even if you expand the net to include all human species, not just us, the situation barely improves. Across a much larger time span, we're still only talking about around 100 sites in total, a handful of dots spread across millions of years. It's testament to how much time and the Earth erases. So when people speak confidently about what early humans couldn't do, what they're really saying is, based on a vanishingly small, heavily filtered sample, this is the story we've chosen to tell. And that should immediately make you cautious. But there's a deeper layer to this erasure that we call taphonomic bias. This is a concept borrowed from paleontology, and it's the reason why our map of the past is so distorted. Taphonomy is the study of how organisms, and by extension artifacts, decay and become fossilized. The bias part comes from the fact that different environments have vastly different appetites for destruction. The effect of soil texture on the degradation of materials is a perfect example. In acidic, moist soils, organic materials vanish in years, but in dry, alkaline deserts, they might last for millennia. This means that 100,000 years from now, a future archaeologist might find a single buried artifact in the Gobi Desert and conclude that the 21st century was a primitive, desert-dwelling culture, completely oblivious to the massive underwater ruins of Shanghai or London that have all been ground into silt by abiotic and biotic corrosion. This bias creates a memory hole in history. If a culture doesn't use stone, or if it doesn't live in a desert, it effectively never happened after 100,000 years, as far as the physical record is concerned. We are only seeing the scraps that the Earth forgot to eat. And this forces us to ask, how many missing chapters of human history are there, simply because they occurred in environments that were too efficient at recycling? There is also a fundamental difference between how nature dies and how we build. When a pine log falls in a forest, it undergoes true biodegradation. Fungi and bacteria have spent millions of years evolving enzymes to break down cellulose and lignin, returning those nutrients to the soil. But our modern materials follow a different, more deceptive path. Fragmentation. A synthetic fabric like polyester represents a massive source of microplastic fiber pollution. These fibers don't rot in the traditional sense because the specialized microorganisms required for microbial degradation are not widespread in natural environments. We have created materials that nature doesn't know how to digest, so nature simply breaks them down into smaller and smaller pieces. Thus, instead of disappearing, our world follows these complex fragmentation pathways. We aren't leaving behind ruins that stand the test of time. We are leaving behind a chemical signature that's constantly disseminating. In a desert, wind-driven sand provides constant mechanical abrasion, grinding down our artifacts. In the ocean, wave action and UV-induced degradation do the same. By year 100,000, our trash has entered a microparticle state. It is no longer an object, It is sediment. This is what makes detecting a past civilization so difficult. We are trained to look for shapes, the shape of a wheel, the shape of a house, but physics is constantly trying to turn those shapes back into piles of raw particulates. We are looking for a city, but on this timescale, we should be looking for a localized corrosive microenvironment, a pocket of soil with an unusually high concentration of iron oxides or synthetic polymers. Only that would suggest something artificial was once there. But what about us? What about the 8 billion humans currently walking the planet? Surely if we all disappeared tomorrow, our skeletons would remain as a clear marker of our era. This is where the math gets really grim. Fossilization is not the natural end state of a body. In fact, it's a statistical miracle. To leave a trace in deep time, you need a very specific set of variables to align perfectly. First, you need rapid burial, usually in fine-grained sediment like river silt or volcanic ash, to seal you away from scavengers. Second, you need an environment with low oxygen to prevent aerobic decomposition. Third, you need favorable chemistry. If the ground is even slightly acidic, it will dissolve the inorganic hydroxyapatite that makes up your bones before they can ever mineralize. Even in the ocean, the preservation of human bone is incredibly precarious. Seawater is a complex chemical soup, and unless a body is buried almost immediately in an anaerobic layer, it simply disappears. Research on bone in marine environments suggests that without rapid burial, the structural integrity of the skeleton is lost within just a few decades. We see this in modern forensic studies too. The effect of soil texture on the degradation of organic remains is profound. In some soils, a body and the clothes it was wearing can be reduced to nothing in a matter of months. Thus, for every Otzi the Iceman or Lucy we find, there are millions of individuals who were completely recycled by the biosphere. By the 100,000-year mark, the vast majority of human remains will have been broken down into their constituent elements, their carbon and calcium taken up by the plants and animals of a new world. Let's look at the cold, hard numbers. Our species, Homo sapiens, has been around for at least 300,000 years. During that time, billions of us have lived and died. Yet, the estimated odds of a single human being leaving behind a fossil are roughly 1 in tens of millions. Think about what that means for a culture that might have existed, say, 200,000 years ago. If that culture had a population of only 1 million, the statistical chance of finding even one of their skeletons today is effectively 0. Even widespread, global species like the dinosaurs are only known to us through a tiny fragmented percentage of their total population. I mean, dinosaurs dominated the planet for more than 160 million years, yet our understanding comes from an absurdly small number of preserved remains, a few thousand specimens. We are searching for a needle in a haystack, except the haystack is the entire crust of the Earth and the needle is actively dissolving. Thus, if we applied this to our own future, 100,000 years from now, there might be only a few dozen fossilized humans in existence globally, but if those fossils happen to be under 2 miles of ocean sediment or buried beneath a new mountain range, they are effectively gone. We are not just physically disappearing, we are statistically evaporating. Now, it's true that some traces of us could survive. If we knew exactly where to look and exactly what to look for, we could potentially find some traces of chemical signatures in the soil. Traces that suggest that something happened. We could also maybe find signs of plutonium in the atmosphere as evidence of our nuclear weapons testing. But let's just run a hypothetical. Say that 120,000 years ago, during a previous interglacial period, a small, regional, industrial culture emerged in Southeast Asia, or the Amazon. They weren't global like us, but they had cities, they used metals, and they had a basic form of synthetic resin, or plastic. They last for 3,000 years, longer than most modern empires, and then they collapse. Maybe it's a plague. Maybe it's climate change. What happened to their record? Well, within 50 years, their steel infrastructure fails. Within 500 years, their concrete has weathered into rubble. Within 5,000 years, their PET-like synthetics have fragmented into microparticles and been buried under meters of sediment. Then the sea levels rise. Their coastal cities are submerged. The abiotic and biotic corrosion of the ocean takes over. Plate tectonics and the relentless erosion rework the landscape. The Earth removes tens of billions of tons of surface material material every year. By the time we come along, 120,000 years later, there is nothing left to find. No ruins, no skeletons, no trash. All that remains is a microparticle state that is indistinguishable from the background geological noise. Their entire existence is reduced to a chemical anomaly in a rock layer that we haven't even bothered to sample. Finding anything complex after 100,000 years becomes statistically almost impossible. It's a sobering thought, isn't it? We like to think of our civilization as a permanent scar on the face of the planet. We think we've changed the world forever, but the science of material degradation suggests that the Earth is much better at healing than we are at wounding. We aren't building monuments, we are building sandcastles in front of an incoming tide. So when we look into the deep past, we shouldn't be looking for ruins. We should be looking for geology. We should be looking for the subtle, microscopic traces of a world that was once organized and is now just dust. And one day, far sooner than we'd like to admit, we will do the same. We will become a thin, dark line of metallic oxides and mineral dust in the strata, evidence that something happened here for a brief, flickering moment, and then the Earth moved on. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like, a comment, or subscribing to my channel down below. I'll see you next time.